I'm Dennis Wirth of the Comedy Kitchen, and you've just entered the Comedy Roundtable. Gentlemen!
Hey.
Dennis! Thank you for coming down. The Comedy Kitchen Roundtable discussion. All right, let's go around the table and give your name and a short bio of your comedy. Let's start over there.
I'm Bill Slemmer, and I'm a local comedian from basically Leominster, Fitchburg, Athol.
All right.
I'm Tom Hayes, and I'm Chuck Norris's bodyguard.
I'm Jerry Caruso, comedy and bodyguard of both these mugs.
I'm Scott MacNeil, comedian from Billerica, and I don't know any of these people.
We're glad.
Is that a place?
Paul Durrance, comedian from Central Mass, and I heard there's free donuts.
See that? What better reason to come down than free donuts, right? What are we going to do? So
I'm going to stop paying Paul. Donuts. Munchkins.
So guys, the Boston comedy scene, it's a fun, crazy scene, right? I mean, when you hit the Boston comedy scene, I know you hit open mics and it's a tough scene to crack, but once you do, it's a fun scene. When did you think you got accepted on the comedy scene? That's like you were an accepted comic on the scene. Start over here.
Accepted? I don't know. That's I don't know.
You're still waiting.
I think, you know? It's a challenge every time we go out. So probably felt the most comfortable probably like the last couple of years. Took probably about 2 years to get out there and do the open mics, and nerves go away, and you do several shows. It took a couple of years before I could go out there and just have fun.
Thomas, was there a point in your comedy career that it hit you? Hey,
I snuck in the back door. I got lucky. Fate came along. I was doing magic, and cable had just come out, and I saw an ad on Showtime for the funniest person in America contest.
Go for it.
And I threw a video in the mail, and about a year later, I was shocked because nothing happened at first, but I totally thought it was going to be a long shot. And then they actually came to Boston and auditioned for a full year. So all the heavies were there. Stephen Wright, the Stephen Wrights, the Dennis Learys, the Sweeneys, the Gavins, the Lennys, all auditioned. Nothing happened for a year, and then I heard they were going national. They were going to have a national tryout, and I was just into that. I, had a gig, and I was just doing this for fun. And I got a call from Showtime Cable telling me I won for Massachusetts.
And a chill right down your spine.
And I was like, no, I didn't believe him. I thought it was a joke, And so
my friends is getting me.
So the next thing I know, I got calls to come in. I never had to go through the pain.
Really?
Yep, I just walked in.
If we could all be so lucky, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was, I walked in and I got paid right away. And
right off the bat, we're going ever since.
Yeah, so I didn't go through your pain.
Oh. Jerry, what about you?
I started off with Dick Doherty, and then graduated to different comedy groups and just started submitting tapes and just told them I've always upped my time. They go, how much time can you do? I could do like 15. I'd say, I could do about 20,
Always push
I could do
yourself
20.
more, yeah.
But then I pushed myself and just started working for different comedy groups, and then it blossomed into doing a lot of benefits and running comics for a cure, and now I headline a lot of those, and
Was there
I
one
love doing
specific
it.
moment that it hit you, I made it?
I felt like probably near 2000, like to me, I thought it took like 6-7 years to feel that comfort zone, to feel that comfort, to be that one where I know I can do this. I opened up for Larry the Cable Guy and then Lisa Lampanelli in those couple of years there, and then I felt good about it. I was confident about it.
So you made it, yeah, sure.
So it was good. Good stuff.
Scott, what about you?
Well, I guess everybody has a different tale. Mine, over 7 years ago, I went to see Stephen Wright get an award, do some stand-up, and I met Tony V, and I was just out on the town having a fun night out watching comedy, and Tony V invited me to come down to Giggles and perform, and I was like, me? And he said, yeah, you. And so I hadn't planned on it, and people have been very nice to me, but I don't know if since then there's been one particular golden moment. It keeps unfolding, and I'm still somewhere in a twilight zone between amateur and pro, and I'd like to move up with it. So
it's always a challenge. You always got to try to get better, right?
Yeah, and then there's running into certain political things too, that who do you know and all that sort of thing.
Welcome to the Boston comedy scene.
So, yes.
That's good. Paul, what about you? I know you haven't been doing it long, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the newest of, in fact, I am the newest of everybody. I've only been doing it a couple of years. I mean, it's just more of like, kind of like Bill said, the more you get out there, the more comfortable you feel. I think the first year, I think I did maybe 2 shows. I did my first show, and then I kind of scared the crap out of me enough that I didn't do anything for a few months. And then toward the end of that year,
hiatus.
yeah,
I need a break.
I went to semi-retirement after 1 show. And then,
You're right.
and then toward the end of that year, I did a couple. Last year, I did a lot, and a few, and then this year I'm doing a lot. So
The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, right?
Yeah.
All right,
You know, I
so-
should have added the year I won, Ellen DeGeneres won the national title.
So you know what all the big names.
Well, and she and I got together for a little while, and I'm proud to say I was the guy that finally turned her to come out of the closet.
Well, yeah.
Said, after you, I have to go the other
That's a
way.
credit to your name, right?
I put that right on the resume, you know?
There you go.
Changed her life.
That's when I knew I made it, when I turned on.
But it was true, she did win for that year.
Sure. So what do you guys think that the mark of a good comic is? And I got to give, I mean, I work with Jerry a lot over here. I got to give him props. I book a lot of shows, I book a lot of rooms, and when I call to book comics, the first thing I get is how much money am I going to get? How much time am I going to do? And whenever I call Jerry, it's more how many people can we help out? Is there a way we can help out more people? It's more about, but I mean, what do you think is the mark of a good comic?
Like you said, I mean, we obviously, you and I both know Jerry. We work with Jerry.
All together a lot.
It's the person who wants to give more than take. You know, the guys who want to go out there and do comedy for the benefits. And the guys that go out there and just and make you laugh for like an hour straight. And the guys can do the time and just everything they say is funny.
Do it for the love of doing it, not the money. What about you, Thomas? What do you think the mark of
Oh,
a
you
good
got to
comic
absolutely
is?
do it for the love, but you also got to find yourself. I mean, you got to have your own voice. You got to be true to yourself. And you got to be comfortable. I mean, that's
Stand
the
out,
most
yeah, do
important.
your own thing, sure.
You know, I learned the transition for me. It's I tell people when you go to an open mic night, watch the comedians because they're all trying to get laughs. And I says once they start to understand, it's not about getting the laughs, it's about giving the laughs. You see, because if I give you a present, of course I'm going to be a little bit offended if you don't like it, but that's your problem. If it comes from my
From the
heart.
heart, that's what it's all
You know,
about.
and so, you know, that was the big shift for me, is rather, and you can tell because when the comic's not getting him, he's totally freaked out because he needs that validation, so he loses his comfort zone.
Oh, sure. Throw you right off.
And you start to run, and and they know that. But when you come this way and you give, and you feel that sense of confidence, it has to be that.
The crowd can tell if you're nervous. If you don't want to be up there, they can tell they're not going to be with you.
They're like
And they're
wolves.
not going to help you out.
Yeah.
You know, there's no
It's
mercy.
gonna get worse, not better, right?
Exactly. You know, well, Leno said it the best. He said that a comedian spends the rest of his life trying to be as funny as he was the second before he stepped on stage.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're all funny with our friends, but it's a whole different
Trying to prove
scene
something, yeah.
on that stage. That stage is, you know, we're there for the money or for the...
It's a business at that
Yeah,
point, yeah.
exactly. So...
What about you, Jerry?
The
What's the mark of a good
The
comic?
mark of a good comic is having the self-confidence, to do any kind of show, no matter where it is. Larry Lee Lewis, I'll give Larry props. He'll get shows, and you've dealt with him too. And you have too. He'll give you shows like great guy. He gave me a house party once. He goes, no one can go do a house party. I go, I just go in, and if you have that confidence to talk to people and you want to make them laugh and they feel it, they're with you. The minute you're like, what was I thinking of? They're not paying you.
You're gonna make the
To
audience
say,
your friend,
yeah,
right? You're gonna make him your friend.
Or like I had to do a show the other night for 15 women. It's like really tough, by the way. 15 women, you know. How can anybody do that?
In comedy,
No,
yeah.
but it's like, you know, or even Bill and I had to do
stud
20,
you.
10 to 13-year-old girls
Yeah.
when we did an Ashland.
Yeah.
And Bill did good, and then I went up and turned out 35, 40 minutes, you know, talking about boys. Boys stink, you know. Oh, did you kiss a boy? Do you got a boyfriend? Don't you hate school? Don't you hate your mom and dad?
What
you know?
they can relate to, right?
But
Yeah.
so you have to adjust. So the comic, and he has that great ability to adjust to the audience. Like we have a target crowd, but I've seen you do younger crowds, I've seen you do older crowds, I've seen you do mixed crowds, like when we did that show in Fitchburg.
Well, you know, comedy's communication, and you got to
Absolutely.
build a bridge.
Yep.
You know, so many comics get into the thing. Well, I've got my act, and they build this wall around you. We know some really funny guys, but they're like wind-up toys. They get up there and they're doing their thing, but
They limit themselves.
and well, they're not reaching out. They're
Right.
not connecting. They're not
They
looking
connect,
people in the
right.
eye. They're not, getting the feel. That's the sign of a
Like
really.
they're reading off a piece
Right.
of paper.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not
going road,
connecting, yeah, with the
and they
crowd,
don't
right.
deviate,
Right.
and then you start to hear them,
Right.
talk faster and faster, sweat more
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah, you got to adjust to your crowd.
And you
for
have to
sure, yeah.
read that audience. You have to know what they want, whether they want clean, whether they want dirty, whether they want family,
You adjust your
whether
act
they
to
want.
what they want.
And you have the remarkable ability, and I'm not getting any royalties off of this, but you have the remarkable ability, because you do magic, you do voices, you tell jokes a certain way, but you know what the crowd wants, and that's the most
What's
important
watching
thing.
them? It's
Yep.
I was in sales for years, and you can't sell something to somebody who doesn't want to be sold, and that you have to build a trust factor, and the trust factor is the same with comedy.
Right.
I see so many people run, and instead of just stopping
Right.
and
right.
getting quiet, that's
Wanting
where
to stop,
the
right.
center of your power is, and looking at the audience and going, "What's going on, folks? What's happening here?"
But getting back to what he's saying, you're a salesman up there. I'm going to make you guys laugh. I guarantee it. You will laugh. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to make you laugh. Not like, okay, I'm going to go through my set. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, too bad.
They're selling laughs and they need
Right.
to buy, right?
Right?
It's a
And they usually do.
I've got an animation project right now, and one of the things that once I started watching things like Shrek and the classics, one day it hit me, and I use this as an example, the film Ratatouille. When you watch that film, I ask people, did you get a feeling when you watched that? Everybody says, yeah, there was a great feeling. And it related back to the early Disney things with Snow White and Pinocchio. Those weren't just
Classics, they were classics.
well, they gave you a feeling, and Disney, when you find out he wanted to make it art, well, I always started to look at the extras that came with the DVDs because I wanted to see what was going on with the storyboards, etc. So they interviewed the restaurateur and they interviewed the animator. 2 different times, 2 different locations, and they said, "What are you trying to accomplish?" And this fits for everything in life. And they said, "What we're trying to do is make an emotional connection."
Sure.
With the rest in your business, with the patron, we're trying to make an emotional connection with the patron
Wanna
to
see
give
more
them a
come
feeling that only we can give them.
That's right.
And the animator said the same thing. And then I watched Fantasia, and there was a clip of Disney. And he said exactly the same thing, exactly the same words. So whether it's sales, whether it's accounting, whether it's car mechanics, anything, you're trying to make an emotional
gotta connect,
connection.
right.
And people don't understand that that's where your personality comes out. That's all of the attributes you have that you give to the world.
Right.
And you
That's what they
gotta,
look
and
for,
so
yeah. Right.
those comedians who go there to do their bit and don't connect, you've missed the whole point.
Yeah, because they're going through the motions, and once you go through the motions, don't do comedy. If it becomes a job, yes, it is a job for a lot of us, but once it becomes a job, like you punch the clock, I got to work 8 hours, I'm all done, I punch out. It shouldn't be like that.
It's a
It should
job
be
here at the Comedy Kitchen.
It is, but because you do hard work to put this together, and it comes out great. It's a great show.
Sure.
But that's why. Once you do that, once you make, like he said, once you make that connection, then you're solid, and then they're laughing and they're wanting more. And when we did that Pittsburgh show, we could have been up there forever. They didn't care. They wanted
wanted more,
it to keep going. I did 50 and he did over an hour, and it's usually an hour and a
fun
half's a
never
good
ends.
show. But they liked it, and they're talking about it. And that's really good.
You create a party.
Yes. Yes.
Scott, what do you think? What's the mark of a good comic?
Well, I agree. I also think there are some other elements too. I mean, overall, an audience isn't going to lie to you. You're not going to make a career out of pity laughs. You have to be funny, and also too, even if you're
We're
nervous.
laughing to support you, not because we want to type thing. Right?
Right. And if you're starting out with it, people, meaning other comics, will recognize if you have the talent, and they'll encourage you, because everybody's nervous to begin with.
Oh, God, yeah.
And if they recognize it, they'll encourage you. They might give some suggestions on some of the weaker points, but there's also bookers too. That's another.
They're watching you.
They're watching you, and you're not going to get invited to a lot of things if you're not
You guys
funny.
ever had somebody chase you down after a show? Wait a minute, I want to tell you a joke. I've had that. Everybody wants to tell you a
Oh
joke.
yeah,
right?
and I have more jokes than I need, and I tell people I don't use other people's material, and I get a lot of people.
Original, yeah, you gotta be.
And people come up and like, I'll tell you a joke, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but then they're like, go ahead, you can use that one, and I'm like,
Oh, I got my own stuff, right?
So, I don't, but it's it's for fun, and also too enjoyment should be primarily audience. Like Mike MacDonald was talking with him, and he said that just because you get tired of a joke doesn't count. And because you love a joke, that doesn't count either. It's
What the audience wants.
what the audience wants.
What about you, Paul? What's the mark of a good comic?
Again, kind of like what everyone's saying. I mean, the interaction with the audience. I'm starting to do that more, and the reason I'm doing that is we did a show with John Perrotta one time.
Yeah.
And
Down here, yeah.
he
Crowd work.
he just touched every single person in the audience for the
And
entire.
they got mad. He got in trouble
Really?
for touching them. No, it's touch everybody.
Well, there was that one.
The comedian over here. Yeah.
But I mean, and it was great. I mean,
He does a lot of one-on-one comedy.
Oh, he's
yeah,
perfect.
it's
one of the best.
fantastic. It's like he has stuff set, but then to just play off of what somebody says
top of your head, right?
instantaneously,
Improv, yeah.
it was hysterical. It was great.
All right, guys, this is the Comedy Kitchen. We do the comedy. We also do food. So today we're going to be reviewing where you can get the best donut in the morning. We already got our coffee. So our first review, come on over, Bobo. Coming in with our first review, it's Bobo
Hey,
Banana.
Bobo.
What are we reviewing, Bobo? We have Dunkin' Donuts. All right, Dunkin' Donuts. We're reviewing first. Open the box. Grab a donut. Don't be shy. Thank you, Bobo.
We didn't even get the donut, you got the holes.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Where's the
reviewing
rest
a
of
few.
them?
I don't want you to get too fat. You know what I'm saying? All right. I don't get none. I'm on a diet. actually.
Thomas.
Get the diet donut.
I'm the big guy. I'm going for the donut here
The
first.
selection, oof.
Whoa, maybe
Late donuts.
All right.
Are we allowed to tell us when we're
All
about
right.
the napkin?
Serviette donuts.
Serviette.
That's right, do it.
Look at this campaign.
Do you love the Steve Martin thing? Did you ever see what he did with the... Because he was a magician first.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He took the, and he's got the audience all built up, and then he does
There you go.
Yeah.
Steve Martin. ladies and gentlemen.
You tried the Dunkin'
Now
Donuts.
I gotta get...
I'm going to throw some names around the table. Tell me the first thing that comes off the top of your head when I say it. Lenny Clark.
Oh, awesome comedian. One of the best.
All right. Lenny Clark.
Bold.
Old? You can relate, right?
Bold.
Bold. I thought you said old. Okay.
No, bold.
Bold.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy. He's wild on the stage.
Scott.
Yeah, he's sharp. I think of him as a friend. He's got a fantastic memory too. He's a real people person. Hilarious.
Lenny Clark.
Love Lenny Clark. One of the best shows I've ever seen.
Sure. And I know, when I started doing open mics, in the Boston comedy scene, everybody, what's your number one goal? Work with Lenny. That's the mark everybody on the Boston comedy scene goes for. All right, Steve Sweeney. I gotta laugh. Huh?
Yeah. Steve Sweeney. Awesome. What can I say? Yeah. I think it's funny.
I already said it.
Okay, the laughter says it all. All right, Terry.
Steve Sweeney. All I think of is he did a great Kevin White mayor of the shitty of Boston.
All right. Steve Sweeney.
I think of him as charitable. He's always helping people who've been through a tough time. And I think of radio too. He's always on the
Yeah, that's
Yeah, got his
right.
own radio show, yeah.
like Mr. Boston.
Okay, Steve Sweeney.
Again, I've seen him live. He spent, I was the Palladium in Worcester. He spent probably 20 minutes straight just ripping the building apart.
And it worked, right?
It was great. It was great. And it was true.
Yeah, I did a show with Steve. I booked him. I got to say, he treated me like gold. He really made me feel like one of the guys, wanted to help out so much, and legend of the Boston comedy scene. All right, I'm going to throw this one in here just for laughs. This ought to be interesting. And I went back and forth. Dick Doherty.
Oh, God.
That's not allowed.
I don't know him, but from what I've heard, it's probably not somebody I'm going to work with.
Okay, not someone you're going to work with. Thomas.
You get a free pass on all
Again,
these. You get a free pass.
That Jerry.
Yeah. Dick Doherty.
It's easy for me. I never met him.
I've never met him, but
Great job. I guess I don't know what to tell you. You can't deny what he did for Boston comedy, but
I know. That's why I'm laughing.
That's a side story.
Yes,
He did. He done did. Yeah.
Hey,
We'll
come
talk
on
about
to the
that one
comedy
after the show.
kitchen and you can tell me off the whole episode. It's okay. I don't need to comment.
Come on, with 2 laughs and it's great. Doesn't have to say anything.
All right.
I had to pass. I had to pass.
So Boston, it's a great comedy scene. It's a tough comedy scene. You know, how would you give advice to a young comic to move up on the Boston comedy scene? I know, you know, a lot of the young comics, and I book rooms, they think I owe them. You're supposed to book me. You owe me something, you know. And I try to tell them, you know, be funny and you won't have to look for work. Work is going to find you. I reached out to, you know, some people in comedy, and they'd rather kick you down than help you out, and there's other who would like to help you out. But what advice would you have for the young comics trying to make it in the Boston comedy scene?
I think it was mentioned earlier. Stay true to yourself. You know what you do. Everybody has their own style. Everybody has different ideas of what's funny. Stick with it and just, you know, do the open mics. You know, just prepare yourself and just, if you're having fun, enjoy it and go out and do it.
Be ready, yeah. So Thomas, how would a young comic move up on the Boston comedy scene?
First of all, if you're a comedian, you want to express yourself. The comedy scene as stand-up is not the only avenue, you know. And as we all know, we've all touched on it. It's a very protective, very exclusive, very walled in and walled out.
Club.
Yeah, it's the club. You have to. So you can continue to try to knock your brains out consistently over and over again, and that's fine. But there are other avenues to get in. Just take my example. I was a magician. I was a comedy magician. All right, I was very fortunate. I got a break. Once they found out that, I mean, I got all kinds of press. I was in the Globe. I was in, you know, the Herald. All of a sudden, you know, I'm on TV shows, and all of a sudden they're like, who's this guy? We don't have him. And yet he's getting all this publicity and everything else. So I brought him in. So I'm saying, do not limit yourself. Just because that seems to be the only place, don't do that. And we talked about
There's other avenues that you didn't have way back then.
It's a digital age. I mean, anybody can go into business today. Anybody can write a book and self-publish. You know, so take anything and everything. And you know, it's just like the rules of success. I had one of the greatest. I also do motivational speaking, and one of the greatest lectures I ever heard was my stepdaughter's graduation a couple of years ago. And one of the teachers gets up and tells these kids at a commencement address, he says, I'm going to quote Oprah. He says, expect to fail. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, talking to these kids about failing.
Tell them to fail, right?
You know, and because I'm totally the opposite of success. He says, and I'll tell you what, he says, because if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Yeah.
Failure is part of the equation.
It's like a baby. You got to fall down a few times before you learn how to walk, right?
If you're not, look for the failures, relish the
Learn
failures.
from them.
Take them, because those are the things that motivate you. Success, it's great, but you get complacent with success. So if all of a sudden,
challenge yourself constantly.
And so fail in every single area you possibly can with video. And because you know something, you get better.
You learn from it.
You learn experience.
That phone has the ability to take video and broadcast you out immediately.
Instantaneous.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, and so don't allow the people who have the monopoly to control your existence.
You got to market yourself. Don't let somebody else market you. You market yourself.
Right.
You got to make yourself a star. Don't let somebody else.
True.
Jerry, young comic. What do they do?
I just think that it's a matter of getting out there and getting consistent. And like he says, like Tom says too, and like all of us will agree to the fact, it's not limited to going to the Boston Comedy Clubs. As you know too, you do a lot of hard work, and you give a lot of comic shows, including myself, just to get out there, because it doesn't have to be the Boston Comedy Club, because people eventually find out about you. And like Tom says, with the digital media, with Facebook, you can put a clip out there of what you did. You can go to another cable show. You can go do a private party. Word gets out there, but you have to be consistent. The minute you start taking months off and days off, and you say like, oh, I can't do it, I had a bad show. Just get up, get back on a horse and just go do it. And you have to be consistent. And then as you learn how funny you are, what's funny and what's not funny, then you start to edit your act, but it just takes time.
Mic time, right?
Yeah, and patience is important. People say like, oh my God, that set was always funny and now it's not. Well, you gotta look why it's not funny.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't have to be mic time anymore. You know, you set yourself up with a little tripod, you put it on.
Yeah.
You do
Video
it, you can
time,
look,
video time, video time, yeah.
You look and you see, oh man, that was, oh boy, I had a bad time.
See, we never had that opportunity.
Yeah, it's a new day and age.
Oh, it's crazy. You know, when we were doing it, we
Yeah,
had
but you
nothing.
know what I did do is I used to take two audio recorders,
Right.
and I would put the material here, and then I would edit as I was going on, and then refine it, keep going back and forth. And I tell anybody, if anybody who wants to try to be funny, if you do a bit, record it, listen to it. If it's funny to you, believe me, it's funny.
Who's the next internet star? Scott, advice to the young comics. Well, how do they move up on this comedy scene?
I'll go back even more to square one, as people who haven't even tried it yet. I think people...
Get over your fear of trying it, huh?
Well, it's a fear of trying it, and they're worried about being nervous and worried about not being perfect the first time. And if you can accept that you are going to be nervous and that it's not going to go perfectly, then you can get up the courage to try it, and that's where
You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Die
That's
before
it.
you can
You're gonna
live.
die, and
Really,
that's it. And you get over it. And you get and you, go ahead.
And I think that there's two categories, two people who try stand-up. There's people who are nervous, and there are people who lie about being nervous. And I also think, too, it's like I have a guitar at home. I've never played it, and I've kind of come up with a joke with it. I refuse to play the guitar until I'm an expert at it. Which, it's
You've been in your
impossible.
bedroom playing a long time before you get
You
it.
have to start someplace, and I know some people, I have some obscure references, but actually, like, I think a comedy is similar to drag racing. You know, and what they used to do with drag racing is when the car would leave the line, they would film it, the pit crew would film it in slow motion to see how the car's reacting, if the wheels are spinning and all that.
Learn from it.
And I think when someone see a comic go smoothly through their set, they think they just came up with it on the spot. I think they very meticulously have broken down each phase and step of the joke, where it is in it, how they tell it, the inflections.
You got to fall on your face a few times before
have
you
to.
can get
You have
better.
to.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Paul, well, you're still a young comic, but
Yeah.
what are you doing trying to
Yeah,
move
look
up?
at him. Look at him. He's actually 21. Look at the guy.
Yeah, I know, it's just 2 years.
This is the before. Is this the before or the
Comedy is
after?
rough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's rough. I'll tell you.
So basically, yeah, I mean, the same things everyone else is saying, consistency. And no two crowds are the same.
That's the fun of it.
We had a show one time, I was with Jerry, and we did a show, killed it, absolutely, everybody loved it. I think a week later, we did a show, pretty much 90% the same material, and they're all just kind of like looking at you, like, all right, you guys are going to be like
They
this.
worked last week. Why ain't you working now?
Yeah. So it's it's just
It's
a
a
matter
streaky
of
business,
like they said, know your audience. Maybe I was delivering something a little bit differently, but it's just a matter of the consistency. You get up there, you kind of shrug off the tough moments, and then just keep going on, and then learn from it, and then just fix it the
So you
next
get
time
better.
around. Yep.
Absolutely. All right, Bobo, what's the next donut we're reviewing? Come on in.
What do we get to say about this one?
Well, at the end, we're going to vote who's got the
okay.
best
I
donut.
see.
All right.
I
What are
forget
we
what that one
reviewing?
tastes like.
Oh, we got Dippin' Donuts. Let's try a Dippin'
They
Donuts
didn't give us
donut.
many, but
All right.
go ahead.
You're good enough.
Billy, go ahead.
All right, I'll take one.
Let's go crazy.
Pass the
Mine.
box. Pass
Pass
the
the
box.
box around.
You
There
took
we
the one I
go.
wanted.
Oh, you got the crunchy one there, huh?
Yeah, try that one. I don't think I've tried that one.
Powdered one there.
My daughter actually worked at Dippin'.
Dippin',
She says,
really?
no, actually it was the other
She got
one.
good
Just touching
stories
them
about
all.
it.
Gourmet. It was
Figure it out.
Gourmet donuts. I'm sorry.
sure I
You're not
did.
allowed to do
You don't know where your
this.
daughter
Gourmet.
worked. Come on now.
Well, used to work.
All right. Just enough.
Let's taste away.
You're all
Taste away.
What do you say? The consistency? The moisture level? What are you talking about? The
And
branded
it's
jelly.
sugar. Gotta have a lot of sugar.
The branded
It's gotta
jelly
have-
was it reminded me of the grapes wrap.
All right. If you could take one thing back in comedy, what would be the one thing you'd take back in comedy, Bill?
Take back the comedy.
I know you said.
Say it up for the camera. Okay,
No.
take one thing back. Is there anything
Did
you
the
wish
mic
you
pick
hadn't
that
done,
up?
or-
You'll never be working for him again.
No, I don't think so. I've been through my share of crappy shows.
Disappointments, yeah.
But like I said, you got to go out to do it. You got to fail to succeed. You learn from it. So I don't think I'd take
No
any
regrets,
back.
nothing
no
you take
regrets.
back?
No regrets.
Thomas, anything you take back?
The day I met Bobby Seibel. I want to go back to that day and remember.
Legend of Boston comedy right there. Good friend of yours, too.
Oh, God, we had so much fun. That no man ever made me laugh.
Oh, he's one of the
Just
few
a
that makes.
pleasure to be around, yeah.
Oh, he was
absolutely.
insane. I spent a week with him in the Czech Republic, and And I basically, I did him in so many ways and so many times. And I actually wrote down the half an hour we had together in a restaurant. I was crying out of control. And
What would Bobby take back, do you think? What would he take back in comedy if he could?
What would Bobby say?
What do you think he'd take back? In his voice, what would Bobby take back?
The dirty creeps I met that didn't book me.
There you go.
The ones that wouldn't pay me.
Don't work for this guy. I wouldn't work for him
When
again.
poor Bobby passed, Jack Walsh called me up and says, he never had a bad word to say about anyone. I said, I don't know which Bobby said that.
Get him in private. He'll go,
Oh, that son of a bitch!
Oh, God.
get him. Jerry.
And my
take one
shoulder
thing.
took a beating drive with him. Caruso, look at that! Look at that!
What would you
I
take
take
back?
back? The only thing I take back is when people want to do comedy, and I think you know this too. They want to do comedy, but they don't talk about it. So they'll say, oh, well, we're having this fundraiser, and by the way, we'll have comedy. They don't tell anybody about it. So I always try to tell people, don't make comedy a surprise. People don't want that. People don't want to have like they don't have a bar mitzvah and then have me and you come up and do
Or
comedy.
music, they don't want to have a band in a surprise at comedy.
But they don't. You don't want a surprise. That's the only thing I take back.
what you're getting
And
into.
I tell people, if you're gonna have it, let people know about it. Don't just spring it as a
Surprise
surprise.
them, right, yeah.
Like if three of us show up and they go, oh, by the way, here's comedy.
Yeah.
People like.
And that's happened. That's happened.
There's preparation. People don't realize it,
We've walked through
You prepare for something, and the
doing a
situation's
comedy
different
show.
when you get there. It's kind
Or
of...
even the audience to mentally be prepared.
Right, right.
Right, because the audience
Right.
isn't, and that's the only thing I take. So that's why I tell people now, if they want to do it, I said, are you sure it's going to fit for the
Know what's
occasion?
going on.
Right.
And are you sure you're going to let people, and this is going to be okay?
Right, because we walked into a bar one time and they're all sitting down drinking. They don't know there's comedy going on. All of a sudden, boom, here's comedy.
That's tonight? Yeah, right. The
Yeah,
comedy show
now.
tonight? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Scott, what would you take back? Anything?
Mine would be more in hindsight. It's hard to know which shows were a total waste of time, nothing learned from it.
Right.
Either people were no shows or the audience was drunk and there was
Never
just
know what
no...
you're getting into.
And also too, sometimes get booked for something and can clearly see that there'd be something better if they did it a different way or whatever, but they've got a sensitivity button and there's no touching that and just saying, well, we did our best, or...
All you can do is try in comedy,
And this-
Some nights go good, some go bad, and all you can do is try.
And it's never 100%, like Tom was talking about.
guaranteed,
There's
no.
got to be failure mixed in with success. You
yeah.
have to accept that.
Some nights they're going to be like that. You got to get through them. Yeah. Paul, what would you take back? Anything?
Probably want to get into it earlier in life. I had somebody
Sure.
probably like 15, 20 years ago that used to do stand-up, and he had said to me one time, I think you'd be really good at it. I didn't know the first thing, how to get into it.
I know, it's
So
not
I-
like you can put a job application in. That was one of my holdups too. I had no idea how to get started.
So I just kind of like shoved it in the back of my head, and then one day a few years ago, the local colleges send out their,
This
class
guy.
schedules. I seen
Go see Jerry. He'll get you started, right?
introduction to stand-up comedy. I'm like, really? That's a thing? So right
Could've
then and
started
there.
earlier, yeah.
Well, a guy with a lazy eye was teaching. Who would take that course?
Plug your class, Jerry.
Never.
Where do you give your class, and how do they get involved if somebody wants to do comedy?
Mount Wachusett Community College, Quinsigamon Community College, and Greenfield Community College.
Introduction
We usually
to
have
stand-up comedy?
intro to stand-up comedy, usually in the fall and/or the spring, mostly in the fall.
What's Greenfield near?
Greenfield's near Greenfield. That's right.
Oh,
Send them
Right
out
by
there.
Greenfield. Right.
Get in touch with those colleges. Go see Jerry.
Great
That's how you
class.
get started. Take a class.
What
take a
about
class,
comedy
take a class.
part 2? You didn't do a part 2
Nah, I
yet.
don't want part two. It's like, then they want everything.
What do you guys think? What do you think is bad for comedy? Okay, I know I watched a show one time and they said.
To me, pretty much.
Well, in the 80s, comedy was the biggest thing on earth, and he said that it got so big that, like, he was going to a comedy club and he was competing against now, a dentist to go to a bowling alley and they turn that into a comedy club and you're competing with that. And that wasn't good for comedy because, the serious comics were competing with people who were wannabes, and it was bad for the comedy scene, and it kind of hurt the comedy scene a lot. So, I mean, well, what would you consider anything? I know myself, there were a few of us who booked open mics, and we got a lot of comics who came out, and the next day, a few months later, everybody in New England's got an open mic, and there's only so many comics, and everybody was having trouble booking the rooms. But what would you think is something bad for comedy?
other comedians stealing rooms. And you
Yeah.
talk about having the rooms. I know
It's a
you've had
dirty
you've had
business.
a few.
I've dealt with
and,
it, yeah,
you know, a
yeah.
lot of backstabbers out
You
there.
try to help people out, and they stab you
They
in the
come in
back.
there, and
That's a
you're
good
trying
one.
to help them out, and then turn around
And it costs you.
and it costs
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
What about you, Thomas? What's bad for comedy?
Well, you know, Bill just said it. He repeated what I said. The comedians. And also the bookers. You
Know
see,
who to trust,
because-
right?
Well, no. What they did was, see, when I started, it was the golden age of comedy.
That's right.
The Paula
The
Poundstones,
good times.
the Stephen Wrights, the Frank
Sure.
Santarellis, the Kenny Rogersons, the geniuses, you know, the Teddy Bergerons. These
Yeah.
are class. All these guys went straight to the Tonight Show, and then went on, a lot of them, to get sitcoms and movie deals and everything else. So when you went to a room, that's who you saw. The place was packed with amazing talent, raw, amazing. I can't believe it was like the Renaissance. I mean, how does the Renaissance happen in Florence? I mean, how does Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Botticelli, and how all these guys hanging out in one little city? And that's exactly what happened there. So then you see the bookers, some of whom have been mentioned, decide, well, let's go for the money. See,
right.
because instead, when you had a gig,
Take away from
you
the
had 3
product.
headliners,
Yeah.
so people came to the show and laughed. And not
Start
only
to
laughed, but their
finish, right?
imaginations were like blown. It's like, how are these people coming up with these concepts? So now you got a booker who says, well, I don't want to have to pay three headliners.
Right.
I'm
How
gonna
do I get out cheaper?
I'm going to put in an
opener.
open micer, and I'm gonna
Another
put
open
in
micer.
another open micer,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
the audience, instead of coming in and getting bam right
Bam,
off the
bam,
shot,
bam.
They have to wait.
so they got to sit through paying
Yeah.
for 2
Right.
shows.
Get
So
to the
now
good stuff.
they're all of a sudden they're realizing, hey, this isn't what we got before.
Yeah.
You see, so now it's watered down. So now what they did was they destroyed the product.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Product
Okay,
suffered.
and now today with giving it away and doing all of the open mics and not screening, if you're going to make an open mic, that's one thing, but you got to be careful what you put out there. And so, and today, I'm sorry, but before it was genius premises. Today, when I see the young comics come up, I'm hearing about everybody's shaving their bush. Every single comic shaves their bush.
Oh, yeah, there's something.
Okay,
They don't get
every
it,
single
yeah.
comic has got sleep apnea.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
every single comic is building a bong out of a plastic
Yeah, that's
bottle.
right.
Go to open
right.
mics or something, every other word's F this, F that,
Yeah.
F this, F that. So you're never going to get paid doing that. Never.
Yeah, but you see, what you're doing is you're taking what used to be a brand,
Right.
and now you've made it a commodity, and it's not a good
Right.
commodity.
Not a good one, no.
And so the public is now branded comedy with filth and
Right.
stupidity.
Right.
And so
Vulgarity,
how
yeah.
are you going to get to convince them
Right.
to go out? And so it becomes incestuous. And
If
keeps
people
going
go to a
around and
comedy
around.
show and see this, they're thinking, this
So-
is what comedy is. I'm
And
not
this-
coming
so
back.
this goes back to what I was saying before. So you want to get on that stage that person controls when you're being, read the Tipping Point and understand one of the things that Malcolm Gladwell talked about. Context is everything.
Right.
If you put 2 of the best NBA players in a local gym in sweatpants and things, nobody's going to come to see them, even though they're the best. Put them in the garden.
Gotta advertise it, yeah.
Put the media in there, and all of a sudden
lights,
it's an
the big
event.
city, yeah.
And it's an event. So that's what I'm telling comedians: create your own event.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's,
You know,
it's a
it's
show.
not-
It's not just
That's right. Create
Show
your
them.
own
Make it an
event.
event. Make it an event.
Jerry, what do you think's bad for comedy?
Bordering on the same thing, the watered down shows, the shows that have like 10, 12, 14 comics. And I remember the times the Comedy Connection would have like the contest. And that's okay, but sometimes those are watered down and the crowd be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, what we do, and this is a perfect example, when me and you did the show here in Fitchburg, they got a great show. They got 2 headliners, and they said,
Well,
we
one.
that's right. You were too. You were too. Don't down yourself.
What a shot right
Don't
there.
down yourself like that. Mr. Hayes.
Great comeback.
Thank you. I learned from the best. I learned
Did
from
they
the
make you
best.
bring 6 people
So,
with you?
so it's like when they're watered down, and like
a watered down
Tom
product,
says,
yeah.
and when it becomes watered down, people go, oh, another comedy show.
I'm not
I don't
gonna
think
go
I
to
can
another
make
comedy
it.
show.
But then again, too, you could still have 4 very good comics too. So you try to border that, and you try to sell it, and so people have a great time. You want them to walk away and say, I can't wait till you have another
Can't
one.
wait to come back,
Or
yeah.
I'd like to hire
Good
you
point.
guys, or where'd you find him? I didn't mean to say it that way. Would you find it? But you know.
That's the way. Scott, well, what do you think's bad for
There are two
comedy?
things that I'm going to tag Tom with it too.
God damn him! God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Is people have taken things way too far, too much vulgarity, too much.
It's
too many things
excessive,
that
yeah.
It's almost to be known at any cost, and it's almost at the point people don't care whether they're famous or infamous. They'll take either one as long as they're known.
As long as they're getting famous,
And there's
they're
a
going the wrong
category,
way, yeah.
and there's a category of people that I can't even invite to any comedy shows because they're like, well, I don't want to be offended by something. And I said, I can only account for what I do. I can't account for what other
people do. Right?
And there are people like, I won't go see any comedy because of.
They're getting offended. Yeah, sure.
And
You
they've
got
had
friends?
Well, I pay them by the hour.
$5 an hour to be Scott's friend. No.
And the other part, now I'm trying to recall, is comedy contests. Because
They're all fixed. Anybody does a contest, they're all fixed.
Well,
but you get seen. You do them to get seen, not to
you
win.
have to be
That's
seen,
what
but the best ones, they have 3 at least semi-impartial judges who are making the decision. When it's an audience vote, like there was one for a radio station I was honored to be in, but they made it an audience vote. Well, I'm 55 now, and everybody...
The young kids can get a lot of people to come out, so they win because they get the most friends
Exactly.
to the show.
I was up against a guy in his 20s, and all he did was he won
Bring a
before
lot of
the
people,
show
right.
because they were
Nothing
going to
to do.
vote for him no matter what.
Nothing to do with how funny you are, it's who
Right,
can bring the
right.
most
Who
people.
brought the most
Paul,
people, right?
what's bad for comedy?
Well, being the last guy in the row.
Yeah.
Everybody's going home, we're tired, and here's Paul.
We dare you to come up with a new angle.
Yeah, pretty much. I haven't experienced most of what these guys have, but luckily I haven't experienced the political side all that much. I work mainly with you, Jerry, Bill. I've kind of inadvertently surrounded myself with guys that I really like, guys that are really good about stuff, and guys that so far, just kidding, aren't going to screw you. So, it's I haven't seen the political side of it, but.
Yeah.
Get ready, brother, get ready, man.
Let me just say, you don't get out much.
You don't want to.
You know, if you're not going to make a living out of it, there's really no point.
Well, I just came out of semi-retirement, don't forget.
Yeah.
After
That's right,
one
that's
show.
right.
But again, it's a little bit of what everyone else is saying here, but I haven't experienced most of it yet.
It's a dirty business and we all know it. Okay, Bobo, what are we reviewing next? Come on in. This is our final review. And let's see what the banana has got for us. He's in studio today. What are we reviewing, Bobo?
That's what my goal is.
Today we have gourmet donuts. All right, thank you, Bobo.
Start this side
All
here.
right, we'll pass it
You know,
right
I
to
didn't
you.
winch it.
Dennis. See that?
There we go.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I hit a jelly one here. Look at that.
We're one short. What's Bobo doing?
I don't think so.
Bobo's eating the
He's
profits.
eating them.
Well, I want one short. I'll gladly pass because I'm.
Well, break one in half is all you gotta
That's all
do.
right. Oh yeah. Well,
Break a donut in half.
Yeah,
and
break
eat
one.
if Tom breaks one of them, I don't know if I like
Pick
that
one.
one. What's that
Just
one?
do it, Jerry. You're slowing the show down there.
You know
You know what video time
There you
is?
I
go.
think somebody hit the donuts before we started. They think
Okay.
they
Who
were
would do
before
a
the
thing
show.
like that?
I don't know. Scott
Awful
MacNeil
human.
had his eyes on him, I think.
Yeah.
Did you get Bill get one? Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him half
Yeah.
of mine.
Whew. Sweet treat. All right, we're gonna go around the table real quick here. Favorite comic to work with? Go.
Dennis Wirth. I don't know.
Yeah. Thomas. Bobby. Jerry.
Saibo. Yeah.
Bill. Scott.
Lenny.
Lenny. Paul.
Oh, God. Let's see. We'll go with Jerry.
Jerry. I gotta go with Jerry too. 'Cause
Can I give a 1A too?
Go ahead.
A 1A would be Larry Lee Lewis.
Larry Lee Lewis.
Funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
A lot
It's
of
just
fun.
too many. That was a tough
He's good for
question.
comedy.
Yeah,
I
that was
know.
not fair.
You can find your circle,
That
but
was
I
not
mean,
fair.
Yeah.
I love the comics who want to help rather than
Yeah.
it's a business. How much am I going to pay?
1C, Dennis Wirth.
Can I get
Yeah.
$101 instead of 100?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
do 46
Yeah, yeah.
minutes instead of 45? I just.
The best shows are the ones just where you go out and work with your friends.
That's right. Just
You know, it's
hanging
it's
out with
great.
your friends. It's not
Jerry,
even a
Paul,
job at that point, is
I
it?
mean,
Right?
you know, it's it. It's a fun night that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever done anything in comedy that discouraged you so bad you wanted to quit? Have you ever taken a break from comedy? Has anything ever discouraged you so bad you thought about quitting or taking a break? Or
Again with the laughs, right? Well, yeah, obviously the first few shows that you do. you know, you go out there, you're doing the open mics, and open mics, you know, I'm not a big fan of the open mics because you're just comedians performing for other comics. You don't have the crowd, you don't really get the true reaction. But when you go to do your first few shows, it's the nerves.
It's discouraging.
You know, and you're not getting the laughs.
Quit because they think this is it. I can't do it. They don't realize you got to go through that to get better. But they get discouraged.
That was probably the most discouraging part, was just starting out.
Thomas, you're laughing. What do you got for us?
I remember a night with Bobcat Goldthwait just did a documentary on a infamous Boston comedian, so I won't say his name, but it rhymes with Larry Simmons, okay?
Okay. Hints are being dropped.
Not a happy individual.
No, he's
And
not. I know he's not
and
happy. He's never
And that's
happy.
kind of, I guess, I haven't seen the documentary because I refuse to give it any energy. But I remember one night,
give it
and
any
again,
life.
you were talking about, you know, comedians are supposed to be entertainers, and isn't, you know, wasn't that what we're supposed to do? Entertain, isn't that?
Absolutely.
We fit in that broad category. And again,
Show
Boston
business.
had all of these rules.
That's right.
You couldn't use props, you couldn't do imitations, you couldn't
Work across the street.
yeah, you had
Really?
but it's just the material alone. So he went off one night about, you know, I just got off stage and I was doing a lot of magic, and so was Steve Martin. All right. And he went off about, next thing you know, we're going to have fire eaters and this and that. And he was just, and he hated to get into a fight with the audience, and it was just brutal. I mean, it was just so dark. And I thought, because he was a big name, you see, in town, and he controlled a lot of shows, I said, do I really want to be part of this thing?
Right, right.
So it's always been, like I've been saying consistently, in fact, the reason I didn't decide to go on even further and really go for it as stand-up, now I'm going full bore in a lot of other projects.
No, you're a busy guy. Yeah, you got a lot of Beantown.
But
Love 'em.
it was always the comedians.
Sure.
You know, I didn't want to be around that negative energy.
Negative
And so
vibe,
you
yeah.
have to be very careful in going into that arena, because a positive force, a positive charge can never go into a negative charge and come out as positive as it was before. It's going to drag you down. So I'm saying, if you want to pursue stand-up, yes, do it, but understand what you're getting into.
Cutthroat business. That's what you
And
get
get
into.
and set yourself up to be versatile
discouraged,
enough
right? Yeah.
to give yourself the feedback and do your thing, whether it's props, whether it's voices, whatever it is. Do yourself, and don't let anybody else set the parameters of what they consider to be funny or not.
Good point.
Or entertainment, more importantly.
Jerry, anything ever discourage you so bad you'd want to quit or take a break?
Yeah, one time I did a show, it had to be in 95 when I was working a lot for Mike Clark. Notice it was working a lot for Mike Clark, and he had a show in Boston. It said it was for Digital Computers. I worked at Digital Equipment Corporation. I says, is it for Digital Equipment Corporation? He said, yeah, it was. I opened up with 3 jokes that were only Digital Equipment Corporation people understood. And my friend, the place was packed, 200 people, vendors from all over, and my friend was the security guard for the corporate office of Digital. I says, how many people, after I was done, all 3 shows, I fell flat on my face. No laughs at all, a few chuckles. And so he said, Jerry, I'm a security guard, I know everybody here. I see 4 people from Digital Equipment Corporation. I'm one of them, and you're the second one, so there were 2 more people. What he didn't explain to me was IBM was there, Nixdorf Computers was there, Honeywell was there. So when I did that joke, fell flat on my face, I felt so bad. I recovered, but I just drove away saying like,
the
oh my
bad
God,
taste
this
in
is
your
awful.
mouth, yeah.
But I just got off, got back on the horse and said like, oh, now I should know better. I should ask
you
more
learned,
detail.
right? You learned.
Yep. But it was not hurtful. I was discouraged in myself. I said I could have went with what I had. For all they wanted me to do was like 5 or 10 minutes. I should have just done it and stuck with it instead of trying to tailor it for a show. And that's the only thing that discouraged me. But 2 nights later, I was back on
Right
stage.
back at it. Scott, anything discourage you or ever make you want to quit, take a break?
Absolutely.
Plenty, right?
Yeah. Well, man, I like to think that my humor is very cerebral. So being an opener.
No. No, God, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. My spokesperson. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Cerebral.
Can you spell that?
Well, look in the closed captioning below here. But,
I think it's another cup here.
but like Tom and I worked together, and it just, for me, I was the opener, and it just fell flat. And it's like I could work 2 nights before, 2 nights after, and the people go nuts
Every
over the
crowd's different,
same
yeah.
set. And And to have like a discouraging evening and have someone who's not aware that they're drunk start come over, who's not a comedian, start following me around and giving me advice on what I should be.
This is how to do your act.
And I feel like saying, well, it probably would have gone better if you weren't drunk. Because like in the beginning, they have a crowd,
Wouldn't have been as
they have to be
distracting.
warmed up some, and I'm not usually a high energy person, but at some places if people are drinking and I have to go on later, their mind isn't working, they can't get it. So I think that's probably, aside from all the politics and
Sure.
that sort of on going, who do you know and all that
Who do you
sort
know?
of thing. But there's, I guess with any job, there's almost a time where you have days where you go home and like, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But there's so many other
Challenge
nights
to get
that
back
it's
out
like,
there.
that was
Many nights
worth
it's
it.
worth it, yeah. Paul, you ever get discouraged
Right now.
right now?
No, I
When's the
mean,
next round table?
I mean, in all seriousness, yeah, again, going back to my first show, I graduated from Jerry's class, and when you graduate from Jerry's class, for those of you that don't know, which basically you're in front of family and friends of all the students that graduate with you, and I think the Quincy people were there too.
Oh, they were, that's right.
So it was a room of like maybe, I don't know, 50 people. Thought I did really good. Within a month, I was doing a show, a comedy showcase for you.
Scoreboards.
Right.
We're right here in the lovely town of Leominster.
And I was halfway through the show, I realized I forgot all my stuff. So because I was enjoying
A little
the show.
discouraged.
So basically, I was going to do 10 minutes. I ended up starting halfway through my set. I had maybe 10, 12 people there to see me. They all laughed. They all thought I was good.
The support crowd.
Right, but it was
You know.
it was just the fact that, for 15, 20 minutes I'm sitting there scrambling, not having fun at all.
Trying to remember.
what I'm supposed to start with. And like I said, I ended up starting halfway through.
So how long did you quit comedy for before you tried it again after that discouragement?
I probably didn't do anything, maybe that was February, probably till September, October of that
Took a
year.
few months off, yeah, for you. Give it a go again?
Yeah, I mean, it was the type of thing that I just wanted to be sure that I had it, but of course you're not sure you have it until you
So
actually
you
do
having
it.
fun now? You back at it?
I'm having a blast. I really
See,
am.
you
I'm
had to
having
get over
so
it
much
to get
fun.
better, right?
And again, it's, I've surrounded myself with guys that I like, guys that are fun, guys that
Positive crowd, it leads to
allegedly
positive
like me.
times, yeah.
So,
Negative people
Yep.
lead to negative times.
Yep. Yep.
All right, gentlemen, we reviewed the donuts. We had Dunkin' Donuts, we had Dippin' Donuts, we had Gourmet Donuts. You have your sheet in front of you with your marker. Write your choice on there, please, and we'll go right around the table. Who do you vote for here to get your morning donut at? And we'll see.
Oh, we're supposed to write the one that we...
The one
You like the
prefer.
best?
Oh, shoot, which one was it?
Was it Dunkin' Donuts, was it Dippin' Donuts, or was it Gourmet Donuts? Where are we going to get your donut from? And, all right, I guess we'll start over here with Bill. What do we got for
Dippin'
Bill?
Donuts.
Dippin' Donuts. Thomas, you choose. There's a hole in the donut. Come on, what's your choice, Thomas? Give it to us.
Now I know why I don't eat donuts.
Who's got the best day?
Those suckers are
You're not a donut
loaded
guy?
with lard. Oh my God! I mean, I feel like I ate
So you're not getting a donut in the
spoonful
morning,
of
huh?
Vaseline right now. What the hell is that? Look,
Not a
I'll
healthy
tell you-
thing, right?
I'll tell you what I thought of all of them.
It's
okay,
cheat
that's
day.
it.
It's
I'm
cheat
sorry,
day.
I took a full bite.
Jerry, who's your choice?
Disgusting.
Dunkin' Donuts because I want royalties off of it.
Dunkin'
I
Donuts
highly
is your
don't know. I
choice.
drink that coffee. I'm not a donut
One
guy.
for
you know.
Dippin', one for Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Scott, what's your choice?
Well, I'm kind of codependent, so I cheated off a bill.
Dippin' Donuts, all
Yeah,
right.
I like
Two
the
for Dippin', one for
sugar rush,
Dunkin'.
yeah,
Paul, who we
exactly.
I
got?
got Gourmet.
Gourmet Donuts, he's got, all right. And I have Dippin' Donuts myself, so I
Dippin'
think
Donuts.
Dippin' Donuts takes the win, am I right? Okay. Congratulations
Don't
to
take
Dippin'
the trip.
Donuts.
Won't be able to
You're
sleep
not
tonight.
getting any
You're
business.
not going to be running. America doesn't run on this.
Could hurt your career.
There go the royalties. You're ruining my royalties. I'm your friend. I'm associated with you.
Go to Starbucks, get something with a little organic in there.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being on the
Yay.
show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go around the table. If you have a website or your next show, please plug it right now. Bill.
We'll be doing Thursday at
Dessert
the
Bar.
Dessert Bar.
All right,
Leominster.
Thomas.
Don't know when I'm working again, but Beantown Pals. Think of Beantown and Pals. and you'll see some great animation and some fantastic sketch comedy.
All right, Jerry.
Dessert Bar doing a wonderful benefit for two great gals from Leominster, Cindy Soto and Crystal Lee. They're doing an Avon breast cancer walk, so Dessert Bar is hosting it. We're going to have a packed house, and it should be a great time. It's a good way to give back.
Raising money for a good cause,
Excellent,
always
yeah.
the best show. Scott.
Facebook, Scott MacNeil, it's MacNeil. I keep my schedule posted on there. I'm also on YouTube, and I always appreciate some likes on there. Helps move me up a bit, and
Check
to
them out
a
online,
sample of my
sure.
comedy.
To where you moving up to?
Paul.
I got a couple. I got a couple shows
Greenfield,
coming
wherever
up.
it is.
End of June, 24th,
Where you gonna be
24.
at?
Natick.
and
Natick, Hampton Inn.
and then the 26th, the next day. Oh, maybe they're opposite. 24th and 25th.
24th, 25th, be there. All right. As always, I am the host of the Comedy Kitchen right here at LTV, and we're being seen in most of central Massachusetts. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, be sure to check out my website, www.dennisworth.webs.com. Joke in the Box Comedy Clubs. Until next time, folks, eat well and laugh well. Good night.
Last time here, I had a
Yeah.
chicken fajita.
Now you get luck.
I had a chicken fajita, hot,
Good
delicious, spices.
It's all good food. It's dessert time, Tom. Come on, baby.